Hi, Claude.
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. All the way from Canada.
Yes, all the way from Canada. I think you're my first international guest.
What?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a couple of people that I've got lined up, but just haven't actually sorted out the timings. I think that's right. I'll probably go back and look at things and go, oh no, yeah, I interviewed that person. Yes, first international guest. Hooray.
Wow. Okay. I
Uh,
feel very domestic because I think everything happens here, in Vancouver and Hollywood, I guess, because we're called, Hollywood North up here in
Yes, yes.
Vancouver.
I'm quite excited to hear a bit more about the Vancouver market. I've got some friends, well, a friend specifically who's moving over at the end of the month. You know her actually, Sam Camilleri from We Audition.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I know her. No,
Yes, I do.
um,
She get in touch with me.
yes, she's coming over at the end of the month. So I think a lot of the listeners that I have are probably Australian based at the moment anyway. And most Australians want to get out of Australia to a better market. So I think some of anything that you have to say about Vancouver will be quite interesting for the audience, which would be great.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not from Vancouver though, right?
No, I am born outside of Quebec City in the province of Quebec. So a lot of people are confused about that because there's a city and a province.
Okay.
So, but I moved to Sherbrooke, Quebec, which is about an hour east of Montreal, an hour and a half east of Montreal, close to the border of Vermont. But it's very French, even though it used to be all English. It's a French, 85% French spoken. I went to French school, Catholic school. Most people are Catholic there. And at 19, I had enough of the winters are very, very brutal. It's very much like what you see in the Vermont, upstate New York, when you watch movies. It's the same. The 4 seasons are very strong, like really harsh winter, very hot and humid summer. So it's great, but I was, wanted to get out of there. So I went to California.
But did you have a French accent and you've worked really hard to not have a French accent, or?
Correct. Just like Australians, I watched a lot of American television to, you just, you mock it, basically. That's my, you just kind of repeat it, you mock it, and then eventually becomes like a natural way of speaking. Certain people can do it. Sorry, not everyone. I met somebody on We Auditioned the other day from Brazil. Her accent, American accent, was so good. I mean, she did live in LA for 3 years, but there are people like Spaniards, they can't really get rid of it. You have famous Spanish actors and actresses that just cannot get rid of it. Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, she cannot. She tried, but for us Canadians, I mean, English is everywhere. It's a little different than American, but yeah, I had to work hard though to sound American for sure.
Some people don't need to though. I watched Eternals on Friday night, and Salma Hayek, obviously, I mean, I've never ever seen her not have her own accent in.
Exactly, she can't. Yeah.
Doesn't need to, right?
No, exactly. Sophia, there was the same thing with Sofia Vergara. She was like, eventually somebody says, stop trying, just be you, and boom,
Yeah,
it worked. So, but French Canadian is not a very particularly pretty accent. It's kind of annoying. Sorry, French Canadians are going to not like this, but it is a bit annoying. It's a weird sound, and you never see it anywhere. So I wasn't going to say, I'm French Canadian, like nobody wants that in Hollywood. Nobody cares. French from France, different story. That I can do for sure.
I mean, I like the French accent. I think it's sexy. So.
Oh, the French from France, yes, for sure.
Well, so obviously you're an actor who is, I think, having a look at your IMDb and your bio and your website, you are definitely making it, which is, well, I say making it to someone like me who's in Australia where there isn't a lot of opportunity. You are making it.
Okay.
What got you into this kind of game in the first place?
You know what? When I moved to California at 19, all I had for experience was doing background and fashion shows with my girlfriend at the time, because I was into ladies back then. And I had no experience in front of, television or whatever. And I moved to Palm Springs and I started taking classes at college, and I got to do Spanish and English to better my English, and dance. And then there was a drama course, and I just took it, and then just to see if I could do it. And again, it was memorizing and copying the sound of American, because these were like famous American plays we were working with for the monologues. And the teacher offered me a small role in a play, and I did that, and I got the bug then. I mean, I was always a ham. I'd already done some fashion shows, like I said, and some background and stuff. And I was in church choir, and I would do little solos. So, and we did shows in the summer of that church where we sang. So the bug was always there, but to think of like one day I'd be in Hollywood working at Paramount Pictures, no, that was never in my plans.
So what was it about acting and performing that gave you the bug that you talk about?
I think it's to get out of, to have a different persona of yourself. I don't know. You're like, okay, I'm this person, but I can be this and I can be that. And yeah, I can do, and you watch movies and you're like, I can do that. And even growing up as a kid, we had some famous brothers in Quebec that used to do everything, commercials, sing, TV. I'd be like, I want to be like them. So it was just to kind of just get out of this and just try to play someone else for why not, right? I don't know. For me, it's interesting. I had that same conversation with somebody yesterday. I went out and he was like, how do you play someone else? I'm like, well, we all have different sides of ourselves. Like when you put on a suit, you act differently. A woman puts on lipstick and a dress and high heels, she acts differently. When you do, you're sitting on the bus, with your hat on, and so you act differently. So acting, you just kind of, take those little different variations of yourself. Sometimes you have to emphasize them. Sometimes you have to turn it down, because I could be very loud and, articulate and move around. And sometimes for television and auditions, you got to bring it down. Right? So
With that idea of what attracted you being able to play someone else, was there something about yourself that you were trying to get away from, or you just enjoyed playing other people?
Yeah, I mean, there was always the challenge of playing straight. I would have liked to have roles where I have a wife and kids, and that really hasn't happened. I mean, I've had wives in commercials and TV shows, but a lot of times I'm playing characters that are either the doctor, the lawyer, the server, things like that don't really have that family. And every time I watch a movie, I'm like, God, I'd love to have all that around me, but it hasn't really happened. And I think being gay also portraying the straight man and be like, yeah, I can do it. Why not? And it's always a challenge, and things are better now. I would think that things are better. Casting directors know I'm gay in this town, and they call me in for straight roles, which I love, because they know that I can do it. Now, will the producer agree? Will they see? Do they know? Probably not, unless they go on my Instagram. And I try not to overdo it on Instagram as well, my personal life. It's none of their business, but I think it's more accepted today. So I'm sorry, I went on and on about this answer, but it is still a very touchy subject, for me, I think.
It is, and it's something that I have spoken about on the podcast before. So, and you've obviously been in the industry for a very long time, so you will have started at a time where it was very much advised that you are not openly gay when you are trying to make it as an actor. So to come to a point now where we feel that it should be okay, or rather that it's getting a little bit better, it's confronting to try and change that ingrained or indoctrinated perception that we have. So it makes sense that it might be a little bit touchy.
Yeah, my first agent here in Vancouver, way back when I came here, this is my second time in Vancouver, second round. The first one, she told me not to tell anyone. the casting directors.
Yeah.
But I was working in a very famous restaurant as a server, and they used to come into the restaurant. And I'm not going to be phony and fake, and you know what I mean? I'm just myself, and they kind of tell, and it's like, they're okay with it. You know what I mean? So that was terrible. That was, okay, 20 years ago, but still, you know, and now I'm surrounded by a team of women, mostly, all my agents, manager, whatever. And it works perfectly, you know, and they know what I can do. They've seen all the tapes I put out and the jobs I've been getting that have nothing to do with my sexuality,
Right.
you know, so.
What's your it's kind of interesting because you started out saying, obviously, when you started out, you were trying to play it straight, which, you know, at the end of the day, we're actors, we should be able to play either role. Do you have a particular stance on the, I guess, the conversation around whether or not straight actors should be playing gay parts and vice versa?
That's a, listen, if I'm playing straight, most of my roles in my career, then why can't they play gay? Who am I to say they can't play gay? What I have a problem with is when I watch something like Grace and Frankie with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, that gay couple, the ex-husbands of theirs, I just don't feel it. I don't get it. I don't buy it. Like, why didn't they cast some gay actors? I don't know. You know what I mean? Did they really need those two actors? No, the show's Grace and Frankie. The two leads are big enough to sell the show. They didn't have to have the other two. So some people might disagree with me, but another example, Cam from Modern Family, amazing. He's straight. He's perfect. Yes, go for it. I have no problem with it. I don't think anybody has a problem with it because he was so good at it. Is he every version of gay people? No, of course not. He's this particular, you know, flamboyant, overweight. It's not representing every gay, but no, nobody's representing every gay. You're not representing every gay out there. I'm not representing every gay out there. People had queer as folk, if you recall, way back when. There was the American version, the British version. People always complain. They complain. Well, that was just a particular group of people. And yes, there are people like that, but not every gay person is like that, or have a group of friends like that, and they go to bathhouses and, you know, whatever. So yeah, I have no problem with straight people playing gay. Actually, if they play my husband, I would really like it.
Sure.
And have a really good sex scene, you know.
I guess it's really interesting because it's the whole, I'm in the same camp as you, obviously both as a gay man, but also in my way of thinking is, as far as I'm concerned, acting is acting and you should be able to play anything. But I guess I'm happy to be challenged on the idea that if in history gays have been passed over because of the fact that they are homosexual, and then there are gay roles and they're not going to people with the lived experience, then so be it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, actors are being cast as killers. They don't have that lived experience, I would assume. I would like
to. Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. There's always going to be people complaining. So you can't please everyone, right?
No, this is very true. And as long as they're talking about you, that's fine.
Yeah.
So have you, actually, you just said it, you worked as a server. So throughout your career, what I'm hearing is you kind of started at 19, so quite young, right?
I started at 15 in the restaurant business.
No, acting. Sorry, you started acting.
Oh, acting, no, I wasn't 20. I was about 21 when I started taking those classes. So, you know, I moved to Palm Springs at 19. I didn't pursue it. I didn't stay there for more than 6 months, went back to Quebec, saved some money, went back to California. It was a long process. So by 21, 22, that's when I started taking classes. And then I didn't move to LA until I was 24, which I felt very green. I shouldn't have moved to Hollywood so young and so unprepared. Regret that. I wish I had more training. And I think you guys in Australia, more like the British, are very well trained. So when you do make the move to America, you've got a good foundation. I was just like, hi, I'm here, you know. It's like,
Talk to me more about that then. What do you think didn't work? I mean, obviously, sorry, didn't work's the wrong word. If you felt you lacked the training and you were a bit green, what did that mean to your attempts to make it over there?
So many things. I mean, first of all, there was the language barrier for me. So when I was 24, my English wasn't as good as it is now. It was a big struggle for me. The lack of, well, you can also be very well trained in theater and then show up in Hollywood. And if you haven't taken that cold reading class and know how to audition on camera, which back in the day when I moved to Hollywood, there was no acting classes with camera. Auditions for all major television shows were not on camera unless you were doing a test for a soap opera or something, or a test for network television. The original auditions were very just in an office with no cameras rolling. So it is an art, auditioning. As you know, we have much more experience now that we're doing it a lot on self-tape at home and we're helping people. We didn't have all that back then, you know, thanks to we audition, we get to read scripts almost daily, but back then you didn't have that. So yes, I felt like I wasn't trained enough. I felt like I didn't know anything about anything. And I was out there going like, yes, I can play French on a soap. And then I'd show up at the audition and just bomb, really, because I did. And then, you know, that casting director doesn't call you back. And then you're just eliminating 1, 2, 3. And you're like, I should have just stopped and just learned the craft a little bit more before you get back out there. So an example, a friend of mine, his name is Nicholas Gonzalez. He was just on The Good Doctor for 3 years, which is a big network television show here, shot in Vancouver, but it's an American show. He came to Hollywood prepared. He came from Stratford University, had majored in English theater. He was just good looking, Latino, and just good, you know what I mean? So I brought him to my acting class, who happened to be a manager, my teacher, and she represented her son. And then she took him on. Within a year, he had a lead on an HBO series, kind of like a Latino Sopranos. It was called Resurrection Boulevard. So yes, he had a long journey until The Good Doctor, but he's been guest starring and recurring and just hasn't had that one show, you know, until The Good Doctor. And then they killed him off after 3 seasons. But that's what I mean. He came to Hollywood. He was prepared. I was so proud to show him to my teacher. He did a scene from General Hospital, a soap opera. And she was like, she called me on the way home and he was in the car with me. And she says, we want to meet him, me and my partner, we want to represent him. He just had it.
Yeah.
I struggled for years to try to get it, you know, took a long time to have the confidence to not have the nerves at an audition. It's nerve-wracking. You're going to read for a major television show at NBC or at CBS or at Paramount Pictures and you're not prepared. That's not good. So that's what I did. That's a mistake.
Preparation is key in all parts of life, I think. So
totally. But actors take it for granted that they have good looks, or they could just, you know, oh, look at her on TV. She's never taken an acting class and she's there. Yeah. Well, you don't know her journey. You don't know what she did, who she's sleeping with, whatever. There's all sorts of ways there's not one particular recipe to how to make it. Everyone has a different journey. Yeah. Everyone. Mine's different than everybody else.
So when you, I guess, started out, what was your goal? What was your idea of making it as far as your acting was concerned?
I'm not sure if I really had the goals, like, oh, I want to make it, I want to be a big star. I think it was more like, I want to get out of the restaurant business. I want to be a working actor. Yeah. You know, and more when I started seeing people that I knew on television, it's like, damn, that could be me, right? And then you meet another one and then you're working in a restaurant in Venice by the beach and the cocktail waitress all of a sudden is like a comedian and she has her own TV show. And Chelsea Handler, I don't know if you know her in Australia, but she had her own show on the E! channel called Chelsea Lately. And then she had her show on Netflix and now she's pretty big in America. Anyway, she was a cocktail waitress with me. You know what I mean? She was so determined and she wanted it. And then I meet this other guy and all of a sudden he's got his own show and then another girl. And it's like, wow, okay, that can happen to me. You know, so Yeah.
Are you still working in restaurants?
No.
So you made it.
Well, I'm fortunate. So basically my day job now is mostly voiceover. I do a lot of voiceovers at home. I'm very fortunate. I finally get to use my French. So I have representation in Toronto. It's an agency that does a lot of corporate commercials as well and stuff, but a lot of e-learning courses, YouTube videos for cars, pharmaceutical stuff that are boring. Sometimes they're fun. And it just becomes like the clients like to use the same people. You know, I do all the banks, you know, here. Yeah, so that's kind of my day job now. And I do it here. I turn a little closet into a home studio. So that's really good. Plus the agency here that I'm with theatrically also has a voice department, and I get to do dubbing for big American commercials. And that's where the money is at. I don't get a lot of those, but when I do get them, they're really good. So yeah, big, huge campaigns for American, you know, commercials and stuff. So that's good.
It's working as far as income is concerned, you're still kind of in the same industry-ish.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, and commercials as well. That helps. I would say I do about 3 to 4 a year. I don't understand why I don't do more. You know what? Speaking of being prepared and all that, nothing has ever prepared me for a Zoom callback. I despise them. There's something about them that it doesn't work for me. I've booked a couple so far, I would say, since the pandemic, but I just had one on Thursday night or Friday night, and they just make me like so nervous because you don't see anyone. I think it's happened once that I got to see somebody. They don't come on. It's just a voice talking to you. It's very odd.
Okay.
Oh, I had lost you. Okay, there you are.
Oh, here I am.
Yeah, so it's very awkward. I don't know if the director's there. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, and they always, I would say 98% of the time change what happened in the first one. And they throw something at you last second. Did you get the last script we just sent you? What? You know, you're so prepared and you're on. And it's like, oh, just like, so anyway, was that your question?
So I guess if you started out and your idea of making it was just to not work in the restaurant business industry, and now you've done that, which is great. And having a look through your resume, you've obviously been working constantly for a number of years, which is fantastic. Do you have, I guess, a goal or an idea of is making it something different to you now that you're working towards?
Okay. I'm older. Okay. I'm getting into the, you know, mid 50s. So I felt like the dream was over for me.
Okay.
I was in Hollywood just 3 years ago, living in LA for 10 years. And I just felt like everybody that was getting a series regular was in their 20s and 30s. And I was like, my time is way past that. But last year during the pandemic, I worked on a show, the CW show Supergirl, and I had a 3-episode top of show. I was going to say over the top, top of show. And when I worked 15, 16 days on that show, I was like, I can do this. This can happen to me. I can be a villain on a show like the CW, any of those shows, you know, whether it's The Flash or Arrow, whatever. And yeah, because there are mature men on those shows. I'm watching Superman and Lois. Everybody's pretty mature on that show. Even Supergirl, all the leads, they could all be the mothers of these teenagers that are watching the show. They're all in their 30s and 40s. So I kind of have it again, that not the bug, but the idea that yes, it could happen. And so for me, to answer your question, a heavy recurring on a show would make me so happy. A series regular would be even better.
Yeah.
But sometimes they start you out with a guest star, and then you recur, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, you become a series regular. So that would be great. That would be the goal. It's not to be a star, it's to be working, but a little bit more on the upper level than just like, here's your bottle of wine now. I'm done with that. I don't take those roles anymore.
I think that it's really interesting because I think definitely a lot of people that I've spoken to, but just in general, a lot of people when they're starting out in acting have the big goal of, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be a celebrity, and I want to do this and I want to do that. And that's the initial, the initial kind of idea. And then it gets to 2, 3 years down the line and it's like, oh, it's not happening for me, so it's never going to happen. And then they give up. But those with the longevity to stick it through end up getting to that point of, well, actually, what I really want is to be a paid working actor regularly,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But stranger things have happened. There's some famous Australian. There's many famous actors that didn't hit their stride until 50s, 60s kind of people. So I think Jackie Weaver from Australia, she didn't hit it till she was quite older.
Really?
So I think she was in Animal Kingdom. So yeah, she's doing amazing things. But Kransky, he was quite old when he finally hit it. So there's hope. There's
Yeah.
hope.
Anne Dowd. Do you know? Yeah, Anne Dowd was in Handmaid's Tale. She has a story about her waiting tables and stepping out and seeing the names of the famous people at the marquee across the way at the theater. And she was like, someday, and she didn't hit until she was in her late 30s, get out of the restaurant business and finally got some juicy roles. So yeah, I think for me in Vancouver is better than Hollywood because they are hiring Canadians as guest stars, as series regular. And I think the people that are working a lot in this town that I see on shows like Riverdale and all those CW shows, and I realized, I look at their IMDb, they never did leave. They stayed here. So then they formed these relationships with these casting, with these producers, and they stay the ground. But it's not easy because it's really easy to want to go to Hollywood because it's right there. We just drive down. I mean, it's just a couple of days away. I mean, it is a couple of days away, but it's doable. I have done it back and forth with my car many times.
Tell me, I mean, given that you've obviously divulged what age you are now, so that's a good 20 years kind of hammering at it, or over 20 years hammering at it. What has kept you motivated to stay the course?
Sometimes I don't know. I ask myself the same question. I think it's because I'm not a dad. I'm not wanting to have the husband and the kids and just, because a lot of people at my age that are probably, I wouldn't say just straight, but let's say the straight man, there's an actor, eventually the wife wants a normal life and just say like, come on, when are you going to give up that dream, right? You need to get a real job because, these bills need to get paid and the kids need to go to college. And I don't have any of that. So I only have myself to feed and, get an apartment and I'm good to go. And then the momentum, it's incredible at my age, how many auditions and how many roles I've been getting. And I'm so fortunate. And I think a lot of those guys my age have given up. And I don't know, I'm in such a high demand right now, guys in their 50s, for all those business roles, lawyers, doctors, all the things I was saying earlier. And it's just, why would I stop now? I got the biggest role of my career last year with Supergirl, the most money I've ever made. I was like, why would I give up now? Right. And that same,
I
know. No, that same office of Supergirl does also Riverdale and DC Legends of Tomorrow, and now a new series, a new Canadian one. And so they're trying to help me get other roles. I was just on hold for a pretty big guest star recurring on The Good Doctor recently, 2 weeks ago. So they are looking for, and I'm like, I don't want to leave town now. I don't want to give up now. You never know.
Over the course of that period of time of you being in the industry and perhaps not, and going through those thought processes of why do I keep doing this? Have you talked to me about any kind of mental health struggles that you may have had to overcome?
I don't get that, like depression when I don't book a role or somebody gets, of course I get a little down when it's a big one, like The Good Doctor a couple weeks ago was like, I really was hoping that was the one and I didn't get it. I was let go. At least I got the courtesy of the email to say they went a different direction. You don't always get that call. But they said in the email, we're hopefully getting something else really soon for Claude. The show's not going anywhere. So you have to look at it that way. You know, a lot of people say in Hollywood, book the room, not the job. But I've already booked the room here years ago. They know me. They know what I can do. So that's not my goal right now, is not to book the room, it's to book a job. So no, I'm not one of those, you know, I don't take pills. I don't have prescriptions. I'm pretty good with keeping, you know, I think the key is to just have a normal life too and have other things going. So that, although my life is all about acting right now, but I do have friends, very close friends that are not actors. And I think that's important because you don't want to just be talking about acting all the time. And my family keeps me grounded because even though I tell them my stories, they're blue collar workers. So they don't really care that much, you know? So yeah, I don't get really, no, I don't have any problems with that. The only time that I felt like I wanted to give up was a year that I moved outside of Vancouver and we moved to Toronto. And that didn't really happen for me, but I had started doing headshot photography. So I was helping actors getting their headshots and I was doing models and stuff. And then I moved to Montreal for 1 year in the city of Montreal. And I did some, I was going out on auditions, but it wasn't working either. I'm not part of the French Canadian Union. And there was no American productions in English on the English side shooting that year very much. So I kind of had a little bit of a, you know, I was okay with it. And then I moved back to California. And then I started doing commercials again. And, you know, and then you get those checks and you get that, you know, and you're like, okay, I'm back, you know. It's okay to take a break. And I think there are times here where I get to the point where I have so many auditions and no bookings. And I go, how long can I sustain that? And I don't call it rejection. That's something that the word is being used, overused. It's not a rejection. They need a Santa Claus for a commercial. There's 10 guys showing up with different beards. Some of them are real, some of them are fake. They selected that one, you know? They needed to select this one person. They didn't reject everybody else. They all did great. We all do great at auditions, but then they need to match you with the wife, with the kid, with the brother, or whatever, or with the leads. Let's say there's no family involved. I was the pharmacist at this audition for The Good Doctor. I thought I was so great for it. Can't wait to see who got the part. And I'm sure it has to do with color. They need to fill that slot and put a black person in there, an Indian person, a Chinese person, whatever. That show is very diverse. You can't beat yourself up for it. I did a great job.
I think that's something that's a really wise comment. And I think a lot more people need to think about that you're not rejected, they just went with somebody else. Because, you know, I think we're all human, and while you may not take things personally, I think it's very, very common for
Of course
to take things personally. And I think a lot of the time in acting, it's a very, I was going to say, it's a personal journey, but it can be a very independent journey. You're not necessarily going through the acting journey with anybody else. So you can very much make it all about yourself, and that you're not right. Or sorry, that there's something wrong with you and that you're not a good actor or whatever. So it's, we tend to forget that there is a whole other side to this industry, which is business and making money, and that, you know, you might have been up against 20 other people.
Credits, your resume might not be what they're looking for. I have American credits, doesn't seem to really help that much. Whatever. You know, a friend of mine read for The Good Doctor for a photographer role, and she didn't get it. And the guy who got it only has 5 credits. She's got 37 credits. So does the credit matter? No. They decided to go with this guy who was very flamboyant and over the top. She's a woman. I mean, yeah. But also to come back to the reason why, also don't take it personally now. I believe I was not always like that. I think it's maturity. I think it's time changes how you feel about things, about your auditions, your work. I feel much more confident now and go, well, if they didn't want me, then there's nothing I can do. And then you watch the show and you go, oh, okay, they went black or whatever. So it's not about your talent at one point. Now, at the beginning, if you just can't book a part for years on end, well, maybe it's time to think about something else, you know?
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're just not booking at all.
Yeah. No, I do.
Whether it could be commercially or whatever. I had a friend who helped me get an agent, as she was with a good agency in Hollywood, and I got with the agency and I booked a bunch of commercials, great ones. And then she didn't book for 4 years. They eventually dropped her. And it's like, do you blame them? It's a business. They need to make money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work for these agents to submit people.
It's yeah, I think obviously the market is going to help. The market that you're in will also play a big part about with that. Like, if I think like with my agent, I've been with my agent for 3 years. I booked one gig through him, which was a commercial at the end of 2019. I've had plenty of auditions. Well, not plenty. That's a lie, actually. I've had 3 with him in the last month, and before that, there was like 3 over the course of a year. So, but the Australian industry is so. It's got nothing on Vancouver or LA.
Right.
So
I understand.
Talk to me about the Vancouver market then. Obviously, now we met via We Audition, and you are auditioning constantly, which you've kind of talked about already on the podcast. Talk to me about the Vancouver market.
Well, compared to LA, for me, I get better opportunities, actually. You would think that the bigger roles would come from LA, but when I was in LA, I was considered what they call a co-star actor. I was rarely going out for guest stars. And if I were, there would be, you're in Los Angeles, so there's tons of guys that have like, huge resumes that only do guest stars. Why would they pick me, who's a co-star actor? Well, now you're in a smaller market. But I wouldn't say Vancouver is that small. It is a smaller market, but it's not as small as Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Atlanta, Georgia. Those are the kind of the hot second market in the States. We're pretty important here in Vancouver because we have a lot of American shows that are here. And it's a machine. It's just like, there's just so much. First of all, there's all those Hallmark movies. I don't know if you see them in Australia, you know about them. All the Christmas Hallmark movies. Hallmark has tons of murder mysteries, those kind of things. Then there's a Lifetime movies, My Neighbor Killed My Stepwife, whatever. Tons of those. And then you've got all the DC comic on the CW. So it's a lot. There's not a lot of feature films. They do a lot of those in Atlanta and Hollywood, obviously. But yeah, and when they do have a feature film, like Jennifer Lopez is here shooting right now. Hilary Swank is doing, I believe it's a TV series, and the pilot is like $20 million. It's a lot. And J-Lo is doing a movie here, an audition for 2 roles. The first one was an FBI agent at the beginning of the movie. Do you know how many actors in this town that have been series regular on the X-Files, on Stargate? I'm talking about shows from the 90s that will audition and will work to be in a scene with J-Lo for 2 lines. Of course they will. Why not, right? So you're competing with that. It's crazy. So, I'm just, I'm very fortunate that it's that busy. Sometimes it's mind-boggling. I'm like, really? Another? It just keeps coming. So why would I leave now?
Given the COVID situation and the move to self-tapes, are you finding that you're getting more auditions now than what you did prior to COVID?
Yes, and it's very frustrating. That's my biggest pet peeve, frustration with casting directors. I wish I can have that talk with them. Like, I don't know how many they get to see.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier for them to receive 50 self-tapes for a role and just kind of swipe like on Tinder. They watch 5-10 seconds of it. That's why it's so important. The sun's coming out. That's why it's so important to really just like be so great on the first 15 seconds of your tape. But the best part of the audition might not be there. right? But you got to grab them from the get-go, because they're going to swipe left, right? There's another one coming. There's another one coming, you know, and then they'll pick those, whatever the producer wants to see, 10 or 15. Whereas before, here in Vancouver, the difference with Vancouver and Hollywood is that an office here will do multiple shows, series, right? 5 maybe. They don't have time to see 25 actors for one role, like a co-star role, even a recurring role. So you had a better chance back in the day, 2 to 3 years ago, where there would be like 5 to 10 people at the most for a role competing with you in the hallway, sometimes 3. When I read for iZombie, I'm not even Latino when I got the part, and there was a Mexican guy there, and there was only 3 of us at the callback. I got the part. Today, they probably see 25 people for that, because it's easy. We're doing everything at home for them. And it's very frustrating because there's too many self-tapes. So yes, I don't like it. I can't wait to go back in the room, really, honestly.
I feel like, look, to be honest, not that I have loads of experience being in the room with casting directors outside of TV commercials. I mean, I personally like self-tapes because it gives me the opportunity to kind of get something that I feel comfortable with, and I'm not as nervous as what I would be in the room, but I'm not getting loads and loads and loads and loads of self-tapes every week like you are.
Right.
So when it comes to auditioning, like you've just kind of...
Yeah, I'm just going to try to get this sun away from me. It's raining and it's sunny. Sorry.
You made a comment about trying to catch them in the first kind of 10 to 15 seconds. And obviously, usually within a scene, the crux of the scene is, like, the crescendo of the scene is usually closer to the end anyway.
I know.
Do you have a strategy of anything that you do at the beginning of your tapes to try and catch their attention?
I just try to, I don't know, visualize what they want and what this character should be, and to give them that right off the bat so that they go, yes. Because it's really just a yes or no. As soon as you open your mouth, it used to be the same thing when you walked in the room. They'd be like, wow, okay, he's got the look, now can he act, right? So I think on the self-tape, it's both at the same time. Wow, he's got the look, yes, he can talk. You know, but yeah, as far as getting to the meat of the piece, you just pray to God that they're watching the whole thing. You know, and it's when I book some that I go, okay, they did watch the whole thing and they really liked what I did, you know? So.
Do you have a particular way of preparing for an audition, as far as getting to what your character is and what you want to portray?
I like to talk before the scene starts with whoever I'm reading with, like a little improv. Yeah. To get in. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a sad piece, emotional, mm-hmm. I like to tell a story that's going to bring me to the point of, like, okay, let's start now. You know, you just take your own cue, you pause, and you start the scene. For example, Supergirl. It was emotional because I was playing a man who, even though I was a vampire on the show, I didn't know at the time of the audition that I was actually a vampire. It just said he was an alien. But his husband had passed, and he had tried to save him in the Phantom Zone. And the superheroes are asking me to help them because Supergirl's stuck in the Phantom Zone. Okay, just setting it up. So it's very emotional, and because I talked about my husband and what these phantoms did to him. Chadwick Boseman had just passed that week, and my friend who helped me with the audition came over. It wasn't a Zoom thing. She came over here, and I just started telling her about my experience with Chadwick Boseman, because I was fortunate enough in my life to have a scene with him in a movie that it was not in the movie, but I shot a scene with him. You know what I mean? It was cut. And I didn't know that much about him, but just working with that man, when I got home and I told my partner about him and about our experience, I started crying. it was such an amazing acting experience. This guy was brilliant. And we all know that now, right? But so I told that story to my friend Sadiqa. I said, just want to tell you my experience with Chadwick. And it really and of course, I was so emotional that week that he passed. And then I paused, and then I started my scene about my husband, blah, blah, blah. And it just set the tone for the audition.
Wow.
And I watch that audition now and I go, I'm so in it. And I think it was captivating for them. I don't know. And this particular casting director likes everything grounded and contained. That's always his note. So you can prepare. You do all this thing. You're going to say this line. You're going to do that there. Fine. But eventually you got to throw it all away, shake it up, and just do the scene, right? Because you don't want to be too technical. If you watch those singing shows, we watch The Voice here, and it's like some of them are so technical that they forget that there's emotions, that you got to let it go. So it can't be too technical, right? And if you flub a line, and if you forget a line, but you're so in it, they will see that. And I did mess up on my Supergirl audition with some words. It's not about the words. They did change the words. In the audition, it was guards, and then on the show, it's phantoms. And then on the audition, it was the strikers, and on the show, it's the phantom zone. See, it was like a mock audition. So people stress too much about the words and the technical part of everything.
Well, it's very easy, especially when you're starting out, or trying to kind of get to that point where you're a little bit known, at least with casting directors. It's very easy to psych yourself out and get into that. I need to give them what I think they want to see, as opposed to just doing the thing.
Yeah, you can't do that. You are you. No one's like you.
Yeah.
I am me. I'm going to bring you what I think this role, after reading it, should be. And if you don't like it, then pick the other guy. But you can't try to figure out what they want. Oh my God, drive yourself crazy. A lot of times they don't even know what they want. They might have wanted a big black woman for this guard, and then some other dude walks in and go, yeah, we want him, whatever. It's a stupid example, but
Yeah, I guess you just never know. So
never know. They change their minds all the time. As far as age and stuff, age is you cannot. I'm playing right now. I'm going to play a Monsignor. I'm the Pope's secretary in a series for the CBC called Bones of Crows. It's about the indigenous boarding school sexual abuse that happened with the Catholics. So there's a scene of the Vatican with the Pope. So I'm playing the Pope's secretary. And when I read the script, it says Monsignor Caron, 65. I'm like, oh my God, right? They obviously changed their mind. They saw me and I don't look 65. I did an aspirin Bayer commercial. I showed up it was a third callback. I never went to the first and second. They couldn't find what they wanted. I show up at this audition and there's guys there that are just way older than me. I was so upset. I was going to call my agent and say, I know I have gray hair now because I let my hair go. I was dyeing it for years. I just started to go salt pepper because I thought I would stand out, and I show up and everybody else is salt pepper at the auditions. And these guys were like in their 60s. And I'm like, what am I doing here? It's about a heart attack and taking a Bayer aspirin every day. I booked it. You just never know.
Love that. I'm just conscious of time, and I know that you've got somewhere else to be. If I'll ask one question for any of our listeners that may be planning to move or relocate to Vancouver for work, what advice would you give them?
Make sure you have some good material. So if you don't have television, experience, then have some short films or student films or some kind of demo to show these agents because they won't take you on, right? And it's hard for them to pitch you if you don't have any good material. So just come prepared, because this is a town where everybody's working. So yeah. It's like,
did the Vancouver market accept self-tapes as a reel? do you find? Like if you don't have much short film experience yet?
I
Or
mean,
like,
with
I use myself as an example. I've done loads of short films and student films, but I don't think any of the footage shows me as good as some self-tapes that I've worked on because I've grown as an actor since they've happened. So
of course, yeah. I don't know, maybe, smaller agencies probably would,
mhm.
if you have something that they go, yeah, I don't have that on my roster. A lot of times it's about, are you a good fit with the agency? Do they have somebody like you? If there's tons of you on the roster, they're not going to take you regardless if you have credits or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know about, they usually say they don't like, some of them don't even want to see somebody who just has student films, but you got to start somewhere. That's what I did when I first came to Vancouver. I had silly demo and it worked. I found one agency that took me. So yeah, I would say if you have something, especially if you have some good self-tapes and you really showed your acting chops, why not?
Is it easy to work as a freelancer? Sorry, I said one more question and now some others have come up. Is it easy to work as a freelance artist in Vancouver, or do you find that you need to have an agent?
You need to have an agent. It's not Hollywood. There's not enough independent stuff being filmed.
Okay.
Whereas if you're in Hollywood, you can get so much off Actors Access and those other casting network, whatever, on your own to get busy and to get started and stuff. But here, no, it's pretty much all about the TV shows and stuff and commercials. So, but I would say as far as the union goes, it's best to be non-union for a while because there's so much being shot that are non-union commercials. So I choose to be non-union at the moment. I just pay a permit fee when I work on TV shows. But of course, I've already have tons of credits, so therefore they don't see it. I understand if somebody's starting, it looks better if you're in the union, I guess. It's kind of some people will disagree with me on that, but.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. I will share your Instagram and all of your handles in the show notes for everybody to follow you along. When does Supergirl air? So if anybody wants to watch out for you.
It's on Netflix US. The finale is Tuesday on the CW, which is the big network in the US. It's a 2-hour finale. The show's over. So I think a week later, should be on Netflix all around the world, but don't quote me on that. That's what I read. So.
Cool. Well, thank you so much again for spending some time with me, and good luck with finding your recurring long-time role so that for you to make it.
I hope it happens before I'm 60.
If not, then you can go up for those 70-year-old ads.
Right?
All right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.